Welcome back. And today we're on day 16 of our 24 days in the book of Luke. So let's go ahead and dive into it. Y'all already know what to do. Like, subscribe if you haven't already. And we are reading out the NLT version. We're on chapter 16, starting at verse 1. All right. So it starts off with saying, Jesus told this story to his disciples. There was a certain rich man who had a manager handling his affairs. One day, a report came that that manager was wasting his employer's money. Verse 2. So the employer called him in and said, "What's this I hear about you? Get your report in order because you are going to be fired." And the manager thought to himself, "Now what? My boss has fired me. I don't have the strength to dig ditches. I'm too proud to beg. I know I know how to ensure that I'll have plenty of friends who give me a home when I'm fired." Verse 5. So he invited each person who owed him money to his employer to come and discuss this situation. And uh, he asked the first one, "How much do you owe him?" And the man replied, "I owe him 8 gallons of olive oil." So the manager told him, "Take the bill and quickly change it to 400 gallons. Verse 7. And how do you owe my employer?" He asked the next man. "I owe him 1,000 bushels of wheat." The reply, "Here," said the manager, "take the bill and change it to 800 bushels. Verse 8. The rich man had to admire the dishonest rascal for being so shrewd. And it is true that the children of this world had more shrewd in dealing with the world around them than are the children of the light. Verse 9. Here's the lesson: use your worldly resources to benefit others and make friends. Then, when your possessions are gone, they will welcome you to an eternal home. Verse 10. If you are faithful in the little things, you will be faithful in the large ones. But if you are dishonest in the little things, you won't be honest with greater responsibilities. And if you are untrustworthy about worldly wealth, who will trust you with the true riches in heaven? Verse 12. And if you are not faithful with other people's things, why should you be trusted with things of your own? Verse 13. No one can serve two masters, for you will hate one and love the other. You will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. Verse 14. The Pharisees, who dearly loved their money, heard all of this and scoffed at him. Then he said to them, "You appear to like Verse 15. And he said to them, "You like to appear righteous in public, but God knows your hearts. What this world honors is detestable in the sight of God." Verse 16. Until John the Baptist, the law of Moses and the messages of the prophets were your gods. But now the good news of the kingdom of God is preached, and everyone is eager to get in. But that doesn't mean that the law has lost its force. It is easier for heaven and earth to disappear than for the smallest point of God's law to be overturned. Verse 18. For example, a man who divorces his wife and marries someone else commits adultery. And anyone who marries a woman divorced to her husband commits adultery. So, okay, let's back up a little bit because I want to talk about that. Just a little bit about what it meant. So, first, we can at least learn these three things. One, that our money belongs to God. Not us. We must use our resources wisely. So it's not saying, hey, money in entirety is bad, because the word was just saying that you can, use your money to help and serve other people. And in that way, and in return, then they will be more open. Hold on, let me read that. Let's see. Okay, verse 9. Use your worldly resources to benefit others and to make friends. And then when your possessions are gone, they will come and welcome you in an eternal home. So you can use your worldly resources to a benefit to other people. That's what your money is. Not just, hey, I'm just using it for me just to keep myself, but you can use it as a benefit for other people. All right, number 2, money can also be used for good or for evil. So we must use ours for the good, because that's why it's saying, hey, for no one can serve two masters. You must love one and hate the other. So it's saying that the love of money is the root of all evil. The love of it. If it rules you, if that's what you run after, that's what you chase after, at the end of the day, being a child of God, even in Deuteronomy 28, it talks about money, how blessings and curses, how blessings will follow after you if you be obedient. But if you're disobedient, then curses will follow after you. But when you're obedient, then money should chase you. You should not always have to be chasing money. Number 3, money has a lot of power. So we must use it carefully and thoughtfully. And we must live by God's kingdom priorities, and we will use our money and resources that will grow the kingdom, that will help grow us in our own faith and in obedience. So, inherently, money is not bad. It's just the way that you look at it. If it's your ruler, if that's the only thing that you're running after and it comes before God, if you're not trusting him with your money, allowing him to lead you and guide you, then you're allowing that to be your God. Then that's why it says, hey, you cannot serve two masters. You cannot serve God and be enslaved to money. Be enslaved. It's your master. Only God. It's not saying, hey, be broke and be poor, because at the end of the day, how are we going to advance the kingdom if we can't help other people? How are we going to show true hospitality? How are we going to, just like we were reading in the chapter before, even in several other chapters before, showing true hospitality, doing those things as a true disciple, and showing our witness by our love and our compassion that we have towards other people. But if we're poor, if we're broke, and we're not able to do anything, we need to live in abundance. The people of God should be able to live in abundance. But if the money is starting to be your master, then that's when you have turned the wrong road, and you need to realign yourself and say, Lord, create in me a clean heart. Lord, let me examine myself, my heart, where I have strayed down the wrong path and I've allowed that to become my master. All right. So now verse 19, this is where Jesus tells about the rich man and the beggar. Verse 19, it says, Jesus said, there was a certain rich man who was splendidly clothed in purple and fine linen, who lived in luxury. At his gate lay a poor man named Lazarus, who was covered with sores. And as Lazarus lay there, longing for scraps from the rich man's table, the dogs would come and lick his open sores. Verse 22, finally the poor man died and was carried by the angels to sit beside Abraham at the heavenly banquet. We're just talking about that. We were just reading about that a few chapters ago. The rich man also died and was buried, and he went to the place of the dead. There in torment, he saw Abraham in the far distance with Lazarus on his side. Verse 24, the rich man shouted, Father Abraham, have some pity. Send Lazarus over here to dip the tip of his finger in the water to cool my tongue. I am in anguish of these flames. Verse 25, but Abraham said to him, son, remember that during your lifetime you had everything you wanted, but Lazarus had nothing. So now he is here being comforted and you are in anguish. Verse 26, and besides there is a great chasm separating us. No one can cross over to you from here, and no one can cross over to us from there. Verse 27, then the rich man said, please, Father Abraham, at least send him to my father's home, for I have 5 brothers and I want to warn them so they don't end up in the place of torment. But Abraham said, Moses and the prophets have warned them. Your brothers can read what they wrote. Verse 30, the rich man replied, no, Father Abraham, but if someone is sent to them from the dead, then they will repent from their sins and turn to God. But Abraham said, if they won't listen to Moses and the prophets, and they won't be persuaded, even if someone rises from the dead. So this is saying that the rich man got so caught up in what he had that he missed his mission. He missed who he was. He missed it. So many people get so caught up in the prides of life and caring about themselves. They're so selfish that they don't think about anyone else. And I'm going to tell you, this is not just because there could be so many people giving to the poor, supporting charities that are people who are really rich and living in luxury. But if you do not have a relationship with God, then that doesn't matter. So it's not just, hey, I'm just giving to the poor or not. It's not just having a relationship with God. It's about doing the whole thing, that you have your life right with the Lord and you are doing what you're supposed to do, because when you have your life right, everything else will align. So even when you have the money, then you'll be like, oh, I have this, so I'm giving it out. And the more you give it out, the more God's going to pour back into you, because you're continuously giving out. You are giving it out for the work of Christ. That is the work of Christ. Him picking that guy up, taking him to the doctor wherever he needed to help with his sores, giving him a bed to lay, somewhere to sleep where he could have bought him his own house, giving him food, helping him get back on his feet. That would have been the work of Christ. That's what we're supposed to do as Christians. But he lost it. He lost his way, and it was too late. He waited until he was in his grave to say, help me. Help me. Do not allow that to happen to you, that you will open your eyes to see before it gets too late. And not only that, but he asked the rich man, he said, can you go tell my brothers, can you go tell these people? And, they were like, no, we're not raising back from the dead, because if they're not abiding by the word, if they can't read the word, if they can't seek or they can't listen to the ones who are already coming to them, somebody raising for the dead is not going to do any different. So while you're on this earth, make sure you're examining yourself so you can see where you are, so you can be able to help your other people. And it won't be where it's too late. It won't be where you're trying to figure out what's going on, because the way the word is saying it is that we're going to have some type of consciousness, because we only look at this side of life. And when eternity comes, we're thinking, okay, we're going to be dead. We're not going to know anything. No, you're going to have some type of consciousness and knowing, man, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. I have brothers and sisters. I have family members. I have this person, that person who needs to be saved. I have this person, that person who needs to know this. And they don't. Don't wait until it's too late. So here are 4 key takeaways that I got from chapter 16. So number 1 is to use earthly resources for eternal impact. Use your earthly resources, what you have, for an eternal impact. So in this parable, Jesus teaches that we should use our earthly wealth and resources to wisely invest into God's kingdom and to help other people. What we do with what we have reflects our priorities and where our heart is. Where our heart is. Because when you continue to keep God's kingdom first, then money will not have rule over you. You will have rule over it. You will not be enslaved to money. You will not be a slave. You will allow the Lord to be your master, because you say, as much as this money is coming into me, it can be taken away. What I give, what the Lord blesses me with, is not just for me. It's for me to do for other people. Okay? So even now, just reflect on how are you managing your resources? How are you managing the things that the Lord is giving you to steward? How are you doing that? Are you using it to honor God? Are you using it to serve other people? Are you using it to invest in internal things? Number 2, faithfulness in the little things leads to a greater responsibility. So I think in another version it says that when you're faithful over little, God will give you or make you be ruler over much. Okay? So this is saying that faithfulness in the small things matter, because it reflects on our character and it prepares us for greater responsibilities in God's eyes. So anything that you're doing, I mean, I know this is like cliche, but anything that you're doing, if you are at your church and you are cleaning the bathrooms, you're mopping the floors, you're vacuuming out the seats, or whatever you're doing, although it may seem small to you at the moment, when he sees that you're faithful over that, then he said, okay, all right, I'm gonna open up this door. He sees you're faithful over that. Okay, I'm gonna open up this door. No matter what it is, no matter your small impact or your small thing that you're doing in the kingdom of God, in any way, shape, or form, he will make you ruler over much if you are managing that small thing well. Because he's saying, okay, now I can trust you with other things, because you are diligently doing this. You're diligently doing that. That's why for me, in this 24 days in the book of Luke, I could have stopped a long time ago and said, you know what? I don't feel like creating these videos. I got a whole bunch of stuff going on, but I said I was going to do it, so I'm committing to it, and I'm going to continue to do it. Now, to anybody, hey, that can be a small thing. For me, it's a small thing, but it takes time to do it. It takes time to set aside. It takes time to edit videos. It takes time. But however, I know if I'm diligent over these small things, if I'm diligent over what he's called me to do, if I'm making an impact in whatever little way that I am, that he's going to make me ruler over more because of that. So it's about, hey, your character. How important are these little things to you? Because, at the end of the day, some people do not care about the small things because they're not really being seen in that. They're not getting too many accolades or too many praises for that. But when you're in the spotlight, you got all these big things happening to you, then you're like, oh, yeah, it's me. But he said, hey, no. What really shows is how you act over the small things. That reflects your character. That reflects it. So consider how faithful you are over the small things, over your time. That is a huge thing, over your time. Your time, your finances, your family, your responsibilities, your work. If you're faithful over those small things and you're honoring God in that way of just walking out as a witness, as being a true disciple of Christ, even just by the way that you carry yourself, he's going to make you ruler over much. Number 3, you cannot serve God and money. You cannot serve God and money. You cannot have two masters. So Jesus warns us, and I'm not going to stay on this too deep because we talked about it, but Jesus warns us against the love of money is that your ruler. Because it can become, or it will become, but it will become a rival with God. It will. It will. In our hearts, it will. And it's like when you allow that to be your ruler, then it's like it's like you have different glasses on now. You're looking different. Your moves that you're making are differently. It's like, God, hey, you accompany with my plans instead of, Lord, let me submit my plans to you first. And then I acknowledge you in all of my ways first. And then you direct my paths. Then you show me where I need to go. But no, many people, when they have the love of money, then they write all their plans out and they'll say to the Lord, okay, bless this. That's what they do. But no, you want to reflect whether your material possessions or money have become a distraction in your spiritual walk with God. If it has, then you need to say, Lord, help me examine my heart. Show me what I need to change now, before it gets to the point where you're not acknowledging that anymore. And lastly, number 4, eternal consequences are real. I can say that again. Eternal consequences are real. If y'all don't ever hear anything else that I say, hear this. Hear this. Eternal consequences are real. With the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, Jesus teaches the reality of eternity and the consequences of neglecting passion for others and ignoring God's call for your life. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. These desires or these temporary possessions of this world is not worth your soul. It's not worth your life. It's not worth eternity. As I showed y'all in the previous video, and I'm trying to see if I have my cord. Think about this piece right here. This piece right here. You can see it. That piece right here is like your life here on earth. And then all of this other is eternity. All of this other is eternity as it goes on and on and on. But everybody's focusing on this little piece right here and not focusing on eternity, where you will be spending forever and ever and ever and ever. Do not allow, and just how long that the beggar, Lazarus, was sitting there asking, reminding him every single day, hey, I'm here. Reminding him of the call that God has put over his life. Every single day, he reminded him. Every single day, he reminded him. And what did the rich man do? He turned away from him. He chose not to do it. He chose. So when he died, then he experienced anguish. He experienced the judgment of his sins, the judgment of not going after the thing that God told him to do. So it's not, like I was saying before, it's not just, hey, I just need to give money to the poor. I just need to do that. No, it's about, hey, making sure your life is right with God. And when it is, then your priorities will align. Not only that, but God has also given you something to do. That stop pushing it away. Stop ignoring it. Go after it. He's giving it to you for a reason. And he'll be putting it in your face all the time. And you're feeling it, but you're still ignoring it. And then later on, when you do pass away, then you be like, man, I could have done this. I should have spoke like he was sad because he was like, man, I should have spoke to my brothers. Now my family members are dealing with some things that I could have fixed a long time ago, but I chose selfishly not to. So don't allow that to be you. Eternal consequences are real. So this concludes chapter 16. And hey, I cannot wait for the next chapter. We're just going deeper and deeper every single time. More things to reflect on. So much more things to reflect on. And I will see y'all on the next one.